For years, Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore stood as the symbol of wisdom, kindness, and calm authority in the Harry Potter world. He was the twinkling-eyed headmaster with lemon drops in his pockets, the wizard Voldemort feared, and the man who always seemed 10 steps ahead of everyone else. But somewhere along the journey, something changed. Fans began to look back and ask an uncomfortable question. Was Dumbledore actually a good man? Welcome to Tales of Hogwarts, where today we unpack one of the most controversial debates in the wizarding world. Why so many people dislike, criticize, or even hate Albus Dumbledore, and whether that hatred is truly deserved. At first, Dumbledore is presented as the perfect grandfather figure. He is warm, humorous, and reassuring. He protects Hogwarts like a fortress and speaks of love as the greatest magic of all. For early readers, he feels safe. But as the series progresses, especially after Goblet of Fire, the illusion cracks. We begin to see a man who is distant, secretive, and always calculating outcomes rather than emotions. This sudden shift feels like betrayal to many fans. It is not that Dumbledore changed, it is that we finally began to see the full picture. Nothing damaged Dumbledore's image more than Severus Snape's furious accusation that he raised Harry like a pig for slaughter. That single sentence reframed the entire series. From the moment Dumbledore realized that Harry carried a fragment of Voldemort's soul, he knew Harry would have to face death. Instead of telling Harry the truth, Dumbledore chose silence. He allowed Harry to grow up believing he was simply destined to fight Voldemort, not that his own death was part of the plan. Fans argue that this was emotional manipulation at its worst. Harry trusted Dumbledore completely, never knowing he was being guided toward a sacrificial end. From a moral standpoint, many see this as unforgivable. From Dumbledore's perspective, however, telling Harry too early might have destroyed his willingness to fight at all. Dumbledore believed that only by choosing sacrifice freely could Harry survive, but the cost of that strategy was immense emotional damage. Another major reason fans criticize Dumbledore is his decision to leave Harry with the Dursleys. Yes, the blood protection was powerful. Yes, it kept Harry hidden from Voldemort, but it also condemned him to a childhood filled with neglect, emotional cruelty, and isolation. What angers fans is not the decision itself, but Dumbledore's complete absence afterward. He never checked on Harry's well-being, he never intervened, he never softened the abuse. Many believe Dumbledore valued magical protection more than Harry's humanity. Dumbledore later admits this was his greatest regret. He knew Harry would suffer, and he allowed it anyway. That admission does not erase the pain, but it reveals something important. Dumbledore was aware, and he chose what he believed was the lesser evil. Dumbledore's obsession with secrecy caused repeated disasters. He hid the full truth of the prophecy from Harry for years. He withheld critical information about Horcruxes until his own death was near. He failed to explain the mirror in Sirius's gift, a silence that indirectly led to Sirius's demise. Fans often argue that if Dumbledore had simply trusted people with information, much suffering could have been avoided. But Dumbledore believed knowledge was dangerous. He feared repeating his past mistakes, where shared ambition and shared secrets led to Ariana's death and Grindelwald's rise. So instead of empowering others, he controlled information, often too tightly. Perhaps one of the most painful criticisms is Dumbledore's handling of Sirius Black. As chief warlock of the Wizengamot, Dumbledore had influence. He knew Sirius was innocent, yet Sirius spent 12 years in Azkaban without a trial. Fans struggle to accept this. They see it as a moral failure, a passive acceptance of injustice. Dumbledore later justifies his inaction by pointing to the chaos after the First War, but that explanation feels weak to many, especially when weighed against Sirius's suffering. Dumbledore's relationship with Snape is another source of controversy. He binds Snape to a lifetime of danger by exploiting his guilt and grief over Lily's death. Snape's devotion is not born from hope or belief, but from shame and love turned inward.
Many fans believe Dumbledore used Snape rather than save him. Yet, from Dumbledore's view, Snape was also choosing his path. Dumbledore offered him a way to protect Lily's son and atone for his mistakes. It was harsh, but it gave Snape purpose. His dark past, Grindelwald and Ariana. The revelation of Dumbledore's youth shocked readers. He was once arrogant, ambitious, and dangerously obsessed with power. His bond with Grindelwald was not innocent. Their shared dreams directly contributed to Ariana's death. This shattered the idea of Dumbledore as purely virtuous. Fans realized he understood darkness not academically but personally. Dumbledore's later humility comes from this guilt. He avoids power not because he lacks ambition, but because he fears it. As headmaster, Dumbledore allowed dangerous situations to become routine. A three-headed dog guarding a corridor, a basilisk roaming the school, dementors near students, teachers like Lockhart and disguised Death Eaters walking freely among children. Fans questioned whether Hogwarts under Dumbledore was a school or a survival training ground. Dumbledore believed exposure to danger prepared students for reality. Critics argue it was negligence disguised as wisdom. Outside the books, some fans felt disappointed by J.K. Rowling's post-publication revelation of Dumbledore's sexuality. They felt it was added without meaningful representation in the story, turning an important detail into an afterthought. This further complicated how fans viewed Dumbledore, not just as a character, but as a symbol. And yet, despite all this, Dumbledore never claimed to be perfect. He openly admits his mistakes. He accepts blame. He prepares Harry not to obey him, but to surpass him. Dumbledore believed love was the strongest magic, even though he personally failed at it many times. His life became a warning rather than a victory lap. He was not a hero without flaws. He was a flawed man trying to do the right thing after learning how terribly wrong he could be. Why he is loved and hated. People dislike Dumbledore because he reminds us of an uncomfortable truth. Good intentions do not erase harmful actions. He made impossible choices in an impossible war. Sometimes he chose strategy over compassion. Sometimes he chose silence over honesty. Sometimes he chose the greater good over individual pain. Whether you see him as a manipulator or a tragic guardian depends on what you value more, results or responsibility. And that is why Albus Dumbledore remains one of the most debated characters ever written. Not because he was evil, not because he was perfect, but because he was painfully human. If you enjoy deep dives into the wizarding world like this, where magic meets morality, you're already home here at Tales of Hogwarts. Subscribe, like, and let me know in the comments, do you think Dumbledore was a necessary evil or a misunderstood hero? Until next time, keep the magic alive.